Hi, everyone. It's Sam, NFTstatistics, and this is your Proof Daily NFT Countdown. Not going to lie, rough day for Moonbirds, rough day for me. My kids are homesick. I woke up feeling sick, and my wife is out of town. But we're still here. We're still showing up. These are the days where we got to talk to you. I'll give you my thoughts on kind of what happened with the Diamond Nest Moonbirds. We'll go over a few art sales, a bunch of interesting stuff happening out there. But first, let's do a quick market overview, starting off with volumes down again, just kind of keep hitting new lows. Market share here largely with Blur as always. Seeing a little bit more for OpenSea, like 25%, Blur on 65%, 10% for the other two. In terms of OpenSea volumes, really, this is the lowest we've been since like the first week of July 2021. And then Blur also, retesting the volume levels that they had before they dropped Blur, which is when things went through the roof. And now we're kind of back to where we were. In terms of prices, large cap index up about 0.5%. Saw some strength in Gutter Cats and VFriends, and then a lot of weakness in Moonbirds. We'll talk about that. And one thing I want to mention is I'm not sure that lower volumes is really all that bad of a thing. And the reason I mention that is because the volume that we have, the status quo is just a lot of pump and dump and manipulation. And it's not it used to be that when there was volume, that tended to mean that new people were buying NFTs. You're getting kind of a cycle out of people who own longer term into newer holders. I think right now it's just, I put this chart up here. This is basically the Blur chart for Azuki yesterday. Someone bought 14 Azukis. We celebrated. Price went from, high 14s to mid 15s. But then 12 hours later, I woke up, I checked my screen. That same person dumped them. So that's 28 Azuki trades at 15 ETH. And that's what's really driving the volume right now. So I kind of think what we need is a bit of a reset lower with volumes, where you kind of end all these games, all this manipulation, so you can get to a place where the real buyers feel comfortable stepping in again. Here's the buy and sell trades. You can't really see it, but from that buyer who bought the 14 and then sold the 14 slightly later. Mid-cap index up a small bit, a lot of strength in Rumble Kong, weakness in Crypto Citizens. One project I wanted to call out is Nina's Super Cool. Nina's Super Cool is a project released by Goda. Nina is a very well-known traditional artist in the physical art space. But about a year ago, I think it was like last summer, she released a project where she dropped an NFT. And that NFT did quite well in the beginning, rose up to above a 1 ETH floor. Now it's been a little bit weaker, but yesterday, or maybe today, they started doing something where she's going to be giving you a physical print if you own the NFT. I take that back. She's not going to be giving it to you, but she's going to be selling you. You can buy it. If you own an NFT, you can buy a physical print of it for $800. And from what I've heard, for her prices, the prices she fetches in the traditional world, this is actually a decent deal. There's going to be a QR code on the print, and that QR code will take you to the NFT, and there'll be a digital signature on the NFT. So kind of interesting stuff. Here you see Pranksy saying, like, kind of showing the video of it. And the reason Pranksy's relevant is because Pranksy bought 50 of them yesterday, swept them. He now owns 200. So, people talk about Pranksy often like he's a flipper, and he does flip a lot, but these he has held for a long time. And he's really upping his bag. So interesting to see that. Saw some really strong performance in Nina's Super Cool World. The other one I wanted to mention is Life in Japan 2 by Grant Yoon. Minted yesterday, minted out quite quickly for $299 per piece, 0.16 ETH, about 1,300 were minted. And again, showing you Blur charts because Flipside data was down today, so I'm using other sources here. But you can see here that the prices immediately traded up above 0.4 ETH. So quick two-bagger. And then they really kind of started to settled back to about 0.28. And then we've seen a little bit of strength since then. So about a 2X for anybody who got in and is selling now. Congrats to Grant. Always exciting to see his success. And then congrats to buyers and people who got into this at a nice price. In terms of art project, there were 4 trades on Anti-Cyclone, 1 trade on Chromie Squiggles, a bunch of Life in Japan trades. Other than that, not a ton of volume, but digging a little deeper, those 4 Anti-Cyclones were all ETH trades, not WETH trades. This one here was the highest priced at 7.7 ETH. There was also a Slinky Chromie Squiggle for 9.9 ETH, the only squiggle of the day. And then Meridians, 5.8 WETH. This is again below kind of where they've been trading, but I think the new kind of trading point for Meridian seems to be in the high 5s. And then a Memories of Chi-Lin at 4 ETH. Second story to talk about, Moonbirds Diamond Nest struggles. I work at Proof. Most of what I do is analyze other projects. But when something big happens with Proof, or we are the talk of the NFT community, I always want to come in and give you a sense of what happened and what my thoughts are. For those who don't know, the basic idea behind diamond nesting was that people who had held Moonbirds nested for a full year, and we just hit a 1-year anniversary, would get a piece of art from one of 21 artists. this was really meant to be a celebration. Eli and the art team went and, found 21 different artists who were willing to contribute to this and be part of this. And I think the idea was that holders of these passes would pick which pieces they wanted and rank them accordingly. What ended up happening was almost everybody, I think it was something like 87% of people wanted a Beeple. And that was hard because there are about 3,500 people who had these new passes. People only wanted to do 100 editions, very reasonably so. Artists have to watch their supply, this was the one everyone wanted. The floor price is now 4.2 ETH. The second and third choices, a lot of people also wanted other ones that only had 100 units. So, Penthouse by OXDGB, Solitaire by Terrell Jones, slightly lower floors, but were very popular. And again, these ones, only have 100 editions. So it's hard for people who wanted these to get them. What ended up happening was that a lot of people who had multiple passes ended up getting multiple of the same piece of art. Okay. And that was mainly because the algorithm optimized for each pass would get the one they wanted most. That was what the algorithm optimized for, but it didn't optimize for the idea that all the different passes in the same wallet would get different pieces. So you ended up in a situation where a lot of people put the same preferences in for each pass, and each pass ended up getting a lot. On the other side, you also had a couple people who got more than one Beeple, and I think the rest of the community perceived that as unfair. So I think that this is where a lot of the issues were. Some people who had 6 passes got 5 of the same piece. Clearly not what anybody wants. When you're getting a bunch of art, you want different pieces, different artists, that you can collect and be part of their communities. So I think that was where a lot of the issues were. Now, what did Moonbirds do to respond to this? Here's a tweet from Moonbirds basically saying, we know this wasn't optimal, wasn't what we wanted. We wanted this to be a celebration, and it turned out differently than we expected. And then Kevin Rose did a video where he basically said, if you got multiple of one piece, then we are going to do a re-roll, a reshuffle, where you can hand that back in and get something new. Okay. And obviously, we can't create more Beeples because there are only 100. That was the deal. But Proof went and bought some of the Beeples on the open market so that we can give those to holders. I believe they did that with some of the other kind of higher demand projects or lower supply projects. Also, they're going to be adding some Moonbirds into the mix, some oddities in the mix. So some of the re-rolls will get you a new Moonbird, will get you a new oddity. Overall, I think that this was a pretty good solution to what was an unfortunate problem. I think taking a step back as far as kind of like a bird's eye view of what happened yesterday, I think that you have a combination of two things. One is that people have lost money on Moonbirds. I know I got 2 Moonbirds. I bought them both for double digits. So I know that feeling, and I think that people also have felt let down over the course of the year, stuff we know about, like the conference canceling and nesting not being what people expected, or CC0 obviously was something that caught a lot of people by surprise. So I just think there's built up frustration. So when something like this that was meant to celebrate the people who've been around the longest, the people who've supported Moonbirds, who've held since day one, kind of goes wrong, I think there's a lot less patience to fix that issue. And it was an issue that was frustrating. I personally think that this solution works quite well here. And hopefully people end up getting a variety of art and feel happy with what they end up with. For me, it's just too bad. I know Eli and his team worked very hard. I know the Divergence team, spent multiple weeks just very focused on this technology. So when something goes wrong, or when you didn't optimize for things that, you probably should have optimized for, the community wanted to optimize for, that's just an unfortunate thing. At the end of the day, you have to make the community happy. You have to do the things that make users get what they want and get what they expect. I think when things aren't what people expect, that's when you have problems. So, overall, hopefully the community can bounce back. Hopefully I have full faith that the team can bounce back. Also do know, the team owns a lot of Moonbirds too. This is not stuff that we enjoy seeing. I've lost teeth on my Moonbirds just like Moonbirds holders have. And I think that's true for the majority of the people who work here, either in Moonbirds or in oddities. But like I said, hopefully we can bounce back from it. Last thing to talk about, let's talk about some notable sales. First, going back to Nina's Super Cool World. This one sold for 10.69 ETH. Pretty crazy sale for a project that has a 0.2 ETH floor. This artist design is one of the more grail rare traits. The seller was Jay Fells, so congrats to him as well as the buyer. A King's Crown Bored Ape Yacht Club sold for 105 ETH. If you look at other King's Crown sales in the past few months, you've had them at 125, 120, 100, and 140. So kind of at the low end of the range, but not surprising because the floor is at the low end of the range, and grailness, the amount that people are paying for unique traits is also at the low end. I also want to talk about this Quirky. A Quirky sold for 12.5 ETH. I think JPEG Pappy was the buyer. This is a one of one. I used to own a bunch of Quirkies. Right now I still own 2, but if a Quirky sells for 12.5 ETH, that's kind of crazy. This is one of one. I'm going to talk about it on the show. So congrats to the seller there, and congrats to JPEG Pappy, whose Quirky bag is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Let's talk about a few one-of-one sales. This piece, Krakamoto by 6529er, sold for 5.5 ETH. A little bit about 6529er. He is the artist behind a lot of the 6529 meme cards that you know and love. If you look at all four of these, I think these are four of the best known ones. I want you to see them in production, the Cope, the institutions are coming, and the 69th card. 6529er was the artist behind all of them. So he used the labs feature on 6529 to create this art and to do an auction for it, which again sold for 5.5 ETH. Here he is thanking the buyer and just saying he's humbled by the support. So awesome to see that. Congrats to the artist and the buyer. This piece is called Atomo's Quantum Shift by Pedro Javier Baez, sold for 4 ETH. Really kind of cool art, kind of fun thing going on here. This artist has had a bunch of one-on-one sales on Foundation for 3, 2.5, 2.8, and 0.9, but I believe that this is an all-time high, at least for the stuff that I have seen. Now, this artist also has done a PFP project, which if you like the artist, if you like the look and feel of what he does, you can go buy one of these, very affordable right now. But an artist that I think is known because of his work just kind of throughout the space in different areas. And then the last sale to talk about, this piece called MF Husain Toy Face by Amrit Pal Singh, sold for 3 ETH. Amrit Pal Singh, I Googled him, and there were some articles about how he made over $1 million selling NFTs in 2021, but it seems like he's still around doing cool stuff, really kind of dives in on this claymation toy face art. You know, I recently said he's got 7 new artists that he's created them for. I believe this was the first one to sell. If you look at his work, it's kind of divided into toy rooms and toy faces. That lower right one, I think, is meant to be an Azuki. And the lower left is a Sherlock Holmes. And then these 2 rooms, you know, all of these selling in the 3 to 4 ETH range. A bit on his bio, he is a visual artist making toy faces and toy rooms, one-of-ones and additions. He's been commissioned by Netflix, Google, Pinterest, Adobe, Budweiser, and Snapchat. So clearly very accomplished in kind of the traditional art space and in the agency space, and then very accomplished as a Web3 NFT artist. That is all from me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Give us a like below if you did. Give us a comment. Tell us what you think. What did I miss? Always hard to talk about Moonbirds, but I always try to be as honest as I can. So any thoughts, feel free to put them in there. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll be back on Monday. Unless I get sicker. If I get sicker, maybe we won't be. But I think we'll be back on Monday. I hope you have a great weekend, and we will talk to you soon.